Christmas was really about the celebration of Christ's birth. That was the focus every year for Christmas, was celebration. Gifts were a byproduct. We didn't have any money for gifts. The Christmas tree was a lovely side of it. The decorations were beauty. We were always probably a little envious of people who had all the money for the decorations that we never had, but it was never a big drive for us. We knew we didn't have the money, and so that's the way life was. We were thrilled with whatever package we got under the tree. We were excited, we got whatever gift we got, we were excited about it because it was a gift, and we were thrilled with any gift. But that's not what it was about. It was about the celebration of Jesus, and we appreciated that. Certainly not like it is today. But the big things that happened in those years were that the war came along. And when the war came along, we were in the Depression. The Depression was happening, then I came along, then the Depression, the years were getting better, and then we had World War II. And the hours and hours and hours that were spent glued to the radio, listening to the news and the killing reports of World War II. And the newspaper, how important the newspaper was. And today, it grieves me that our young people don't read the newspapers. It grieves me that so many people don't read the newspaper. They don't care about the newspaper. They think it's obsolete, it's ridiculous, and much of it is because nobody reads it, so they don't even think it's important to put the truth in it. Drives me up a wall. But the point is, during World War II, it was the thing we clung to for information. We had no electricity in Nash. We had to use a car battery to run our radio. We didn't have a car because our car was old and the tires were outsized, and all of the outsized tires were used in the military, and we couldn't buy tires, so we had our car up on blocks in the garage. So we had to walk everywhere we went, or we had to get a ride with someone else. Well, everything was rationed. We had ration books for everything, but because we owned a car and we had to continue to buy tags, we could get rations for gas, so we could give the gas stamps to the person that was going to take us somewhere, so they were willing to take us for the gas. They could use our gas stamps, so they were willing to take us to get the gas stamps, and we could pay for our rides with gas stamps.
How about that?
And that was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
So that proved to be beneficial when we needed to go somewhere, or if we needed to go to Enid to the hospital, we could use gas stamps to get someone to take us there. So that turned out well. The other thing was butter. You had to have stamps for butter. We churned our own butter, so we always had stamps for butter. And we could trade those for other things. Sugar. Mother never used a boatload of sugar, but we had a number of people in our family, so we had a boatload of sugar stamps. That was another thing that was rationed, was sugar. So we were able to trade those stamps for other things, too. So Mother was a manager. You just learned to manage your dollars. You learned to manage your items so that you can always have things. Mother raised chickens. You can always sell a chicken. When you need something, you sell a chicken, and you take the cash from the chicken and you do with it what you need to do. And that's how you accomplish some things. Eggs. The chickens lay eggs. People need eggs, so you can sell eggs. Milk. When they started the school lunches during World War II, we didn't have any money to buy our lunches at school. So they allowed us to pay for our lunches with milk. So we carried fresh milk to school that had just been milked that morning, run through the separator, and carried to school.
Wow.
Because at that time, raw milk was usable, okay? And everybody knew Miss Dixon and knew Miss Dixon was clean. So there wasn't any problem with Miss Dixon's milk. That's how we paid for our school lunches, by carrying milk to school. And it was still warm from the cow when we took it to school.
How about that?
So how times change, right? Mm-hmm. And then a few years later, they started pasteurizing milk, and they stopped it and wouldn't let us do that anymore. Mm-hmm. So there you go.
So who all? None of the boys were old enough to go to war, right?
No, none of my brothers were old enough for the war, but Bill Watkins, who was my sister Dorothy's fiance at the time, and then they got married, he went to war, and he was stationed in the Aleutians. And Keith Carnes, Retha's fiance, they later married, he went to the Merchant Marines. And he was in the Merchant Marines throughout the war.
Did they get married before the war or when they got back?
I think during, but I'm not going to swear to that. I've slept since then. Obviously, well, I know Dorothy got married because Bill Jr. I was 10 when he was born, so the war was over when I was 12, so obviously they were married for the war or during the war.
How old Sammy?
Sammy was a couple years younger than Bill Jr., so they probably got married during the war too. Okay. I just kind of forgotten the years, but anyway.
And so what was that like? What was that like having them gone to war and listening to the radio every night?
Well, you listened to everybody because so many people in your own town were gone. And your relatives were gone, and everybody you knew were gone. Dad's nephew Max was gone. People we knew there in town were gone. And you wanted to know what was happening. And, of course, Dad had been in World War I, and he'd been over there in France, and he knew what that land and area was. And he wanted to know about the war. And we were not allowed to listen to the radio because it used the battery up. And because we didn't have a car, and I started to tell this a while ago and got sidetracked, the only way we could get the battery charged was to take it to town. Well, we didn't have a car, and those old car batteries were heavy. So we fixed a sling for the horse to put it on the side of the saddle, to carry it on the side of the saddle to town to get it charged. Well, it took several hours to charge it. So the only time we were allowed to run that radio was to listen to the news. So we never had listened to any radio programs at all, except news, when I was a kid growing up.
And so the news wasn't like 24-hour satellite news today.
No.
And
You had specific time. You got a news program in the morning, and you got one, maybe 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then you got one in the evening. And who was the guy that did the news in the evening? Walter Cronkite?
No, not that early, but H.V. Kaltenborn was the heavy hitter during World War II.
Okay.
And Edward R. Murrow.
Edward R. Murrow, that's what I'm thinking about.
Really? He was on the radio.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was on the radio.
No, he was the guy that was on with David Brinkley when TV came on? No,
that was Chet Huntley.
Oh.
He, Edward R. Murrow did See It Now, or one of those where he went in to interview people in their home. But it was a black and white old interview show, and that was his first foray into television. He never did much news on television. His news was radio.
Did you ever have a television all the time you were home?
Oh, no.
What year did you graduate?
1951.
And when did you leave home?
1951.
And never had television. They were
No.
just kind of getting going then, weren't they?
Right. There was only like 3 in Nash in 1951. 3 televisions. Shrewsbury's had one, and it had one of those 9-inch screens.
Yeah.
And I think maybe 2 other people had one. But no, there was no TV.
Nothing like this
And
60
I
inch
was-
you have hanging on the wall
right.
now.
And I was 16 before we ever had electricity.
Before you had electricity?
Right. I was
What'd you do for a
16.
refrigerator?
Well, we didn't have a refrigerator. We had an ice box. And in the summertime, we'd buy ice. But in the wintertime, we didn't have anything. We just had cold weather. And if it wasn't cold,
Things didn't keep.
things didn't keep.
And so the Iceman came around every week or something?
You had to go to town and buy it.
Oh.
You had to go to town and buy it.
How much would a block of ice cost?
I don't remember. 50 or 75 cents.
That's pretty much money.
Well, yeah.
When a quarter would buy...
We used to buy a dime's worth of ice on Sunday. Now, Mother used to get a dime's worth of ice on Sunday. And that would get us through Sunday, and we could have iced tea on Sunday in the summertime. After church, we'd go to the store and buy a dime's worth of ice and take it home from church. And a lot of times we walked, and we'd have to carry it home, so half of it would be melted by the time we got home. And
it wasn't in a plastic bag.
oh no. And but we'd carry a quilt to carry it home in. We'd take a quilt to carry it home in, and to try to insulate it. And then we'd have iced tea for lunch, and that's all. It'd be gone by the time that was over.
I think something just dawned on me. The whole family would walk into town to church.
Yeah.
What's that one? You walked everywhere.
We walked most everywhere.
You did have a horse,
We had a horse, but we didn't take him to church.
and you didn't have a wagon or anything.
No.
You walked
We
everywhere.
walked everywhere.
So what was that like in the winter?
Cold,
That you went to church?
absolutely. On Wednesday too.
And what about at night? I mean, church on
We
Wednesday.
walked
Flashlight?
sometimes. We had batteries. We carried a lantern if we didn't have batteries. We had a kerosene lantern.
About that.
Is this still on?
Let's
Walter Winchell's the other guy.
Yeah.